A lot of founders think winning SBIR means the hard part is over. It's not, because a lot of startups do not fail after the award because the technology is weak. They fail because the company is not ready. Not ready on cybersecurity, not ready on staffing, not ready on commercialization, not ready on customer discovery, and the new SBIR law is basically acknowledging that reality. Hey everyone, I'm Corey, a lawyer helping entrepreneurs decode law, technology, and innovation. And this video is part of our 7-part series on the new SBIR law and what founders need to understand now that the program has been reauthorized and updated. Today we're talking about one of the most practical changes in the new framework, expanded SBIR assistance dollars. Because this is not just about more support. It's about including cybersecurity, staffing, training, and I-Corp-style commercialization help. And if you understand this the right way, it changes how you think about what the award is supposed to do for your company after you win it. Here's what we're covering in this video. What actually changed in the new law, why it matters more than it sounds, why cybersecurity is now a much bigger founder issue, why the staffing and training flexibility matters, and what founders should be doing now to use these support dollars strategically. So this is about capability, not just funding. This is the bigger point. A lot of founders may still think about SBIR support in a very narrow way. You apply, you win, you do the technical work, maybe you get some outside commercialization help around the edges. That mindset is too limited now because the new law is signaling something important. The government understands that a startup can have strong technology and still not be ready to convert that technology into traction. And that is why these assistance changes actually matter. It's not just about giving founders extra resources, it's about helping founders build the capability to actually execute. So what actually changed here? The law made several practical updates. First, it changed the framing of technical and business assistance. Instead of thinking only in terms of agencies choosing outside vendors, the law now puts more emphasis on allowing award recipients to select, if they want, the technical and business assistance that fits their project. That matters because it gives founders and founding teams more room to think strategically about what kind of support actually helps. Second, the law explicitly adds cybersecurity assistance. That is a big deal. Cybersecurity is no longer some side issue that founders and teams have to worry about. It is becoming part of the readiness story, part of the diligence story, and part of the trust story around whether the company is actually prepared to handle sensitive work and sensitive relationships. Third, the law broadens what assistance dollars can support. That now includes things like hiring new staff, augmenting staff, or directing staff to participate in training activities tied to the program's goals. This may sound small, but it's not, because a lot of early stage companies do not need another memo. They need actual internal capacity. Fourth, the law also requires agencies with I-Corp's programs to provide options for awardees to request participation in I-Corp's team's courses, boot camps, or similar programs. And it allows eligible support amounts to be used there too. And that matters because customer discovery and commercialization training are often exactly where technically strong teams are weakest. So why does this matter more than it sounds? Well, founders are going to hear all of this and they're going to think, okay, nice, more support around the edges. That would be wholly too shallow because for a lot of startups, the real bottleneck is not going to be the technical quality, it's the organizational readiness. The company may have the innovation, but not the systems, not the internal bandwidth, not the security posture, not the discipline to validate the actual market problem. And this is where value gets lost. And the law is basically telling founders, we're not just interested in whether you invent something, we're more interested in whether you can become executable. Why cybersecurity is now becoming a founder issue. Let's pause here for a second. Cybersecurity is one of the most important signals in the change in this law. A lot of founders think about cybersecurity like this. We'll handle it later, after we get bigger, after we raise more money, after someone forces us to care. That mindset in 2026 is dangerous because the same new SBIR law that strengthened security review also added cybersecurity assistance. So this is not random. That is Congress effectively telling founders that your security readiness and commercialization readiness are increasingly connected. If your company is building in sensitive areas such as AI, artificial intelligence, defense tech, biotech, semiconductors, advanced advanced manufacturing, critical infrastructure-related sectors, a weak cybersecurity policy can absolutely undermine the value of your technical success. You can have a great technology and still look unready. So why the staffing change here is so practical? This may actually be the most underrated part of the update, because the ability to use assistance funding for staffing and training is extremely practical. Founders should know this problem. Sometimes the issue is not about what you do not know that needs to get done, it's no one inside the company has the bandwidth to own that. No one owns the commercialization workflow. No one owns the customer discovery process. No one owns the cybersecurity readiness effort. No one owns the execution gap between the technical work and the actual business opportunity. That is where startups stall. So when the law gives more room to use assistance resources for internal staffing and training, that is the recognition that internal capability is often the missing piece. So what about this I-Corps thing? A lot of technical founders hear I-Corps and assume it's optional, it's academic, or it's not very relevant. That's the wrong mindset. I-Corps style programming is really about a structured customer discovery. It forces teams to test pressure, whether they actually understand the customer, the problem, the use case, the buying logic, and the commercialization path. This is incredibly valuable because a startup can have excellent science and still be wrong about the market. It can have a strong prototype and still be poorly aligned about adoption and how that actually happens. So this is not just a training add-on. This is part of building a more reality-based company. So what are mistakes here you need to avoid? Treating these assistance dollars like soft benefits that don't deserve serious planning. I would say that's wrong. If your company is weak on cybersecurity, that's going to matter a lot. If your company is weak on commercialization bandwidth, that's also going to matter a lot. If your company is weak on customer discovery process, you guessed it, that will matter. And if your company is weak on team training and execution readiness, you guessed it again, all these things are going to matter. And if you already know where the bottleneck is, but you still treat the support dollars like an afterthought, then you're wasting one of the most practical advantages of this new framework. So what should you do now? Here's your discipline playbook. First, identify your real bottleneck. Do not start with what support is available. Start with what is most likely to stop us from turning this award into traction. That's the right question. Second, do not only think in terms of outside help. Sometimes the best support is not another external advisor. Sometimes it's strengthening an internal function, strengthening a person, strengthening a process, strengthening a capability. Third, link support dollars to the bigger strategy. If you need cybersecurity help, tie it to diligence and security readiness. If you need customer discovery, tie it to commercialization and phase 3 plan. If you need staffing or training, tie it to actual execution gaps inside the company. The support should not sit in a silo. It should strengthen the broader founder strategy. Fourth, you're going to want to look at how agencies implement this. The law has created flexibility here, so agencies will determine how usable it becomes in practice. The smarter, sharper founders are going to track what their target agencies are actually allowing, and then how they explain the support options and where the flexibility becomes real. So the takeaway here, big picture, is that this expanded assistance rules are one more sign that the new SBIR framework is trying to become more practical. That is a real founder takeaway. Congress is not just saying we want to fund technical work, they're also saying that we understand that early stage companies often need help becoming secure, staffed, trained, and commercially ready. That's a big signal, because these companies that win long-term are not always the ones with the smartest technology. They're the ones that become the most executable. So let's recap. This new framework is going to expand support around cybersecurity, staffing, training, and I-Corps style participation. That means assistance dollars are no longer just about generic outside help. They can now be used more strategically to build internal capability. Cybersecurity is now a much bigger founder issue. The smartest founders are going to use these support tools to remove the real bottlenecks between winning the award and creating traction. This is not just about extra support. This is a part of building a more executable company. Join me on the path to decoding law, technology, and innovation to grow your business. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Until next time.